fundamentals, if interested, and has certain undergirding principles. Can that undergirding philosophical assumption, presupposition, give a rational account for logic itself? It cannot. Therefore, it's invalid.
Right, yeah, exactly, and like I said before, what you just said was more or less the thesis statement of TAG, and what I was sort of tackling a minute ago were the assumptions and presuppositions that have to be made and the premises that have to be laid down in order to arrive at that conclusion, one of which is guarding against equivocating certain concepts by using them. Like I said, there is a difference between logical absolute, like this statement A is A, refers, and I think one of the biggest mistakes that treating that to which A is A refers as if it's a thing, its own, that has to fall under a category of existence, when it's not a thing, it's the nature of things. You don't categorize the nature of a behavior. You categorize the nature of a thing. A behavior is the nature of a thing, or at least part of it. So that's really important, I think, that we deal with that, because I want to find out if you're ultimately asking me or any atheist to account for the consistency of things that exist, in which case the answer is no, of course not. You go back far enough, you peel any layers away, any worldview is going to have a certain set of preconditions to existence which cannot be accounted for. You yourself have quite a few. You believe that God's nature just tends to be consistent for no reason with no cause. You believe that God happens to be honest and not a liar for no reason with no cause. There are certain preconditions to God's existence, and it's that same principle that can be applied to that to which logical absolute statements like A is A refer. And so that's why if we have any further discourse, and I'm really enjoying this, I would love it if we could define our terms very clearly and succinctly. Fantastic. Oh, this is going to be fun. Here we go. Bye. There you go. That didn't work. There we go. Anyway, I am looking forward to your video response. I understand that you've got a lot of stuff going on, but I'm really looking forward to your response to Slick Logic, and hopefully I'll be able to come back after that and clarify a few things if they're not clear already. But anyway,
I want to give you a compliment, actually. BS. I talk to a lot of atheists. A lot of them are rather obstreperous. You're not, and I appreciate the dialogue that you and I are having.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'm sorry. I've been hogging the mic. Let me get off. But I wanted to listen to the stuff you said. Basically, I want to ask this question. Do thoughts exist?
Would you like me to answer that?
Okay, clear. Okay, let me say it again. I talk to a lot of atheists, and a lot of them are obstreperous twits. Yeah, in a sec. And you're being polite, and you're trying to be rational and address the issues. And I appreciate that.
I think this is another one of those tricky language things where we need to be careful about how we're categorizing.
They have their own form. They're a separate entity that's not actually the way we see.
Let me try to tackle that. Do thoughts exist is a question very similar to does it between your fingers and your palm. In the same way, a thought is a relationship between certain parts of the brain interacting with other parts of the brain. In the same way. Thank you. So does a thought exist in the way that an apple exists? No. No, I wouldn't say so.
If I make the statement, thoughts exist in the mind, is the statement true or false?
Well, again, you have to clarify what you mean by in the mind. You have to clarify what you mean by exist. So does a thought exist in the mind? In one sense, yeah, of course. It's conceptual. A thought is conceptual, and it's what the mind does. Does the mind actually even exist? Can you find the mind without a brain? I would say no. I think you would say the opposite. I don't think there's a lag. Matt, did you not hear what my response was to your last question?
If I hope I'm not stepping over anybody, because I think my end here might be a little bit lagging from you guys.
Huge lag problem.
You said yes, thoughts exist in the mind are conceptual. Well then, logical absolutes are conceptual statements, are they not?
I just wanted to test if you're hearing me. Are you hearing me? Testing, 1, 2. I think that was a yes. Okay. Your question was, do logical absolutes exist in the mind? Can you repeat that? Hey guys, I'm
still learning how to use this thing. I'm still learning how to use this thing.
I'm going to reload real quick.
I type 2 sentences quickly. I just figured it out, sorry. Yes, logical absolutes are conceptual statements. Isn't that correct? Then, since logical absolutes are conceptual statements, we need to discuss some other attributes of the logical absolutes. For example, their transcendency and their absoluteness. We said they're absolute by calling them logical absolutes, so you've agreed that they're absolute. They don't change. And their transcendency means that wherever we are and whenever we are, they're still true. If I go outside my backyard, they're still true. My front yard, they're still true. If I go out tomorrow, they're still true. They go to different parts of the universe, they're still true, etc. So they're transcendent in that they are not dependent upon space or time for their validity. They're absolute, they don't change, and they're conceptual. Now here's a question. Is it not fair to assume that someone's thoughts reflect the mind of that person? Yeah, so of course. If I'm pissed off, I'm going to say, whatever. If I'm in a really good mood. Now, it's conceptual and transcendent. Is it not logical to conclude that there's a transcendent conceptual thing behind them, a mind, which necessitates a mind? Now, for those of you who haven't heard this argument, that we are the ones who invented the logical absolutes. Why? For example, BS's mind is different than mine, and what he would agree might be absolute, I might not agree with, and vice versa. If logical absolutes are the product of human minds, then we have a problem, because what one human mind thinks would be absolute, and another one does not, would therefore cause a contradictory system, and it can't be valid and absolute. Therefore, it cannot be the product of human minds. It just cannot be. But yet, logical absolutes are conceptually transcendent and absolute, and not dependent upon human minds. Then, which mind are they dependent upon? This is something the atheist can't answer. Go ahead.
There's a fallacy. It's not a popular logical fallacy, but there's a logical fallacy called the fallacy of division. It's to conclude logically that something true of a thing must also be true of some or all of its elements. An example of this might be commercial airliners can fly unaided across the ocean, commercial airliners can travel very fast, commercial airliners have a jet that's not true. So to say that logical absolutes are logical absolutes are absolute, and logical absolutes are conceived of by a mind, therefore the mind conceiving of them must itself be transcendent and absolute, is not only makes a fallacy, but takes the exact form of a fallacy. You have not demonstrated that a subjective mind cannot conceive an absolute concept. Why not?
I didn't say a mind can't conceive of an absolute concept, because we're discussing absolute concepts. What I'm saying is that atheists point that logical absolutes are the product of human minds. That cannot be. Human minds contradict each other and themselves. If I thought something was absolute that you did not, then which is true? Which mind is correct? What you're having to assume is that if your mind and my mind contradict each other, and yet something's statement is true independent of our minds, then exactly correct. There is a truth independent of our minds. The nature of the logical absolutes is that they're transcendent, they're absolute, they're conceptual. There should be a conceptual absolute mind behind them, because they're conceptual by nature. This is something the atheist perspective cannot accomplish. Therefore, as you said in the beginning with Matt Delahunty, which he contradicted himself violently, he didn't even recognize it, no atheist has brought it out yet, which I'm really surprised about, that the atheist perspective cannot give a rational position the existence of logical rational perspective. Christian one can. I mean, if the atheist perspective can't give a rational demonstration for it, from its perspective, well then you know what? It's an invalid assumption. It's just a question for you guys. I want to shift gears. I have an honest question I want to ask you. All of you atheists, if you're all atheists. But now, I'm a pastor, or ex-pastor. I definitely believe in God, and just cut me all you want. But let me tell you something. I'm actually wondering about this. I want to ask, because it just